Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report. I'm Joey Kamad with the Connection Newspapers, joined tonight by Jeff Graham and Greg Wyszynski, also with the Connection Newspapers. We are taping live tonight from our studios here in Merrifield, updating everybody on the latest in the district basketball action here on Wednesday night. Got some big games going on. No real big upsets to this point, but we'll have all that and more to talk about on tonight's show. But before we do that, guys, we want to be sure to thank the people who can make this show possible. First of all, Quality Care Ford Service Center, servicing all makes and models, 703-383-6299. And CCI Screen Printing, 703-978-0257, serving all your screen printing needs. We had Concord District boys, Liberty District boys semifinal games. On the flip side, the Concord District girls and Liberty girls games will be Thursday night, tomorrow night. And Patriot District girls and National District girls play tonight. And on the flip side, National District boys and Patriot District boys semifinals will be tomorrow night. So they kind of split it up so that basketball junkies like us can go watch a lot of games. Jeff, you look over at the Concord District. You know, Westfield #1 seed, Herndon #1 seed, both advanced on to the championship game tonight. You know, no real surprises. And Herndon continues to win, now 4-1 without Scotty Reynolds in the lineup, and gets to the Concord District Championship game.
Concord probably maybe the easiest district for the fact that there were two byes in the first round. Two teams didn't have to play, so Herndon, who was a little banged up, and they might have been an upset victim had they played a first-round game with Scotty Reynolds out. Tonight they pick up an overtime win over Chantilly, so they're guaranteed at least the 2 seed, which is I think what Gary Hall and those folks wanted. Westfield, you know, was coming off a big win over Herndon in the regular season, almost a 40-point win. So that's going to be a final where most people probably expected. And most people expect Westfield to take that, so things in the Concord looking to to shape up that way.
This will be the 4th time the Bulldogs and the Hornets have gotten together, faced off at Lake Braddock in the Holiday Tournament, and Herndon won that game. Westfield swept Herndon during the district docket, so that by virtue of doing that, got the #1 seed in the district tournament.
And then not to look ahead, but Concord 2 in the regional tournament plays National 3 in the first round. National District is a little underrated this year. The teams that have come through in that tournament right now are dangerous regional teams. You look at a team like Yorktown, who has been completely inconsistent this year, but when they're on, they can be very on, and they have some size inside that can cause you a lot of troubles on a regional level. But if you get past that game as the Concord 2 and win that first round game, then all of a sudden you're looking at the winner of the Patriot District champion in Fairfax and the Patriot District champion, let's just say it's Hayfield. You could potentially have a Herndon-Hayfield game in the second round of regionals.
And Greg, you bring up a good point. You know, coaches aren't going to tell you they're looking ahead. They're going to tell you they're going game by game. But you got to know, you got to think deep, in the back of their minds, they're thinking, okay, if we win this game, gets us in the championship game, and that means we're likely to face either this team or this team in the first round, and if we can get by there, this team or this team in the second round. It all plays in, kind of hand in hand as the district tournaments play out.
And I think for Herndon, that's especially important because they do have an injury, and I know Gary Hall said that Scotty Reynolds, there's no way he's going to play the rest of the season. But, in the back of, certain people's minds, they may say he's just blowing smoke. Reynolds, quite possibly could come back and give it a shot against Hayfield, if he sits out, first round game of regional. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
Well, I think let's take a straw poll here, boys. I think we all know the region pretty well. We've all worked and covered Gary's teams. What do you think? Do you think he's blowing smoke, or do you think Scotty's coming back?
I've talked to Coach Hall a few times about this, and he says the goal is to get Scotty ready for the AAU tournament. But I find it hard to believe that if Herndon gets past the first round game in the regionals and has an opportunity with a second round game, a quarterfinal game in the regionals to win and get back to the Patriot Center for the 3rd straight year, if Scotty Reynolds can play, if he can go out at 50%, I have a feeling he's going to go.
And that's the question, is if he can play. I mean, if Hall is saying you got to shut him down because of when this injury occurred and because of the extent of the injury, well, considering what kind of value this kid has and what kind of potential he has for the rest of his basketball career, I mean, it's almost like the Terrell Owens thing. I mean, you're talking about either shutting the kid down and looking towards the future, or you're talking about trying to take your best shot with the kid on maybe, less than 100% health-wise. And I don't know, I tend to believe him. I don't necessarily know if he's going to blow smoke, because wouldn't you want to give your team a bit of a carrot going into the regionals to say, hey, if we win a game, if we win 2 games, Scotty's coming back?
Yeah.
So I imagine maybe he's being straightforward with the injury.
You got to believe Scotty wants to play, and maybe it's the case where he can test the ankle out, in practice, and maybe he goes, 5-10 minutes. If he can continue to go, then he'll play more. But
hey, stick him in the corner. Let him shoot 3-pointers.
that's right.
I'll take that.
That's spoken like a Larry Bird Celtics
There
fan
you
right
go.
there.
Hey, let's before we get more into this, we want to back up a day. We're going to start by reviewing some of the district quarterfinal matchups that were played on Tuesday night in the first round. Over in the Concord District, Chantilly over Jefferson, 57-31. No real surprise. Ed Grimm, as good a coach as he is, just didn't have the horses this year.
Right. Colonial struggled this year. They finished at 3-20. Chantilly, not the best performance. I know Greg Sy, all-region first teamer, struggled in the first half of this game, but Jefferson, they really don't have many offensive threats, so Chantilly was in no danger of losing this game, and obviously they lost a close one tonight to Herndon. So, still a pretty good season for Chantilly.
Oakton and Centerville season, 73-55. Chris Despins, first team All-District, 26 points. Really come on strong, has Chris Despins.
Right, I think
Despins
is a kid who really doesn't get a lot of respect because maybe he's not, he doesn't look like a basketball player. He's kind of a garbage guy, but he's the kind of guy that can grab a lot of rebounds and has a lot of second chance points. So he's been playing well in the second half of the season.
Let's define that correctly as a garbage time guy, just a garbage guy.
Over in the Liberty District, Fairfax 53, Marshall 47. This, I guess, if you look at the first round matchups, this is a 5th seed going into a 4th seed. I guess this is really the only upset.
It's sort of an upset. I mean, honestly, if Fairfax had beaten Woodson in the regular season finale, they would have been the 4th seed. They would have been hosting this game. It's a bit of a surprise, but really, when you look at what Fairfax got back, which was guard Chris Lalosian for this game, talking to PJ Kelly last week, Chris is a kid who is sort of the bus driver for that team. He is an all-important guard on that team. He really helps out on the floor. He comes back in the 4th quarter of that game. They're able to kind of withstand Marshall on their home court and come away with a win. And Fairfax is a very dangerous team. They've got great size inside. When the guard play is there, they're a very tough team to beat. And just like Madison, one of the better teams in the second half of the season.
JD Skolnitsky, he's a beast inside.
He is one of the most fun players to watch.
Absolutely.
Just because he gets the ball inside and he doesn't miss.
Absolutely.
And if you try to stop him, he's going to make sure that you know to not try to stop him again. I love when football players play basketball.
There you go.
It's the best.
JD, his teammates call him J Diesel, and for good reason. He's a big boy. Now we have some highlights from the Madison-McLean game. Madison 56-37 win over McLean. This is a game I was at. McLean up by 4 at the half and going into the 4th quarter. Madison, though, late in the 3rd quarter, just completely took over, going on at one point a 24-5 run. As you see in some highlights here, Warren Edney going baseline, missed a couple dunks. He did have a thunderous dunk late in this game, showing the athleticism that he does boast for Chris Kublank's team. But, you just saw a shot there of Drew Murphy. The Highlanders really played a good game through 2.5 quarters, but then just really fell apart. I think at one point, midway through the 3rd quarter, I saw that Madison, I think, had 22 points. And then here you see they finished with 56, so they scored 34 points in the last quarter and a half. So just really exploded. And then, obviously with the win over South Lakes tonight showed, what they were capable of doing.
And from what you saw, I mean, when Madison did sort of take over the game, there was a case where McLean was sort of hanging their heads a little bit. I mean, was it defensive lapses, things like that? I mean, or is it just a virtue of Madison's talent just taking over?
Just, you have a 1-2 punch, and you see Edney going baseline, missing another dunk. Now, I do promise he does make one of these dunks late in the game. But he, this is just with the Warren Edney on the inside, with a Brandon Altman, who was a first-team All-District selection. And then you go outside with John Ogaloo, who maybe outside of Scotty Reynolds has the quickest release, in my opinion, in the northern region. This is another first-team All-District selection, 19 points a game. It was just too much offensively for McLean to handle.
And I think in the playoffs you really see the cream rise to the top in the second half of games. I know Centerville had about an 8-point lead on Oakton in their first-round game before Oakton really put it on them in the second half. So to play a poor first half isn't the worst thing in the world in the playoffs. The stars usually shine in the second half, and I think you'll see that throughout the playoffs.
Now, Joey, you've had the honor, let's call it, to cover both Oakton and Madison when Chris Kublank has coached both programs. Can you see a discernible difference in this Madison team with him on the bench?
This was a team coached by E.W. Nolan, and E.W., as good a guy as he is kind of the polar opposite to Chris Kublank. You're very well aware of that. I mean, he's kind of a laid-back individual. Chris Kublank is the exact opposite of laid back.
He's
I mean,
pretty
he got
intense.
on these guys. He got on these guys and just really lit a fire under them. And he knew, a new system. It was going to take them a little while. They struggled early in the season. And there's the big dunk by Warren.
You were
Edney.
right.
I told you he'd get one down. But he just lit a fire under these guys, and just really got them playing well to the point now where they're going into this district championship game on Friday night as one of the hottest teams in the region.
And Chris's teams always are known for underperforming, I think, during the regular season and then coming on, during the playoffs. He's always had teams that, when you look at them on, at face value, it's kind of like, how's this team doing well? And then playoff time, their Final Four team, they're playing for championships. They're making, state runs against George Wythe when, they shouldn't have been on the floor with them. So.
Well, they almost weren't.
Over the
That's no slight to Oakton, but that George Wythe team was pretty good.
Yep.
Over to the National District, we had in the first round quarterfinal action on Tuesday night, Edison, a 68-61 winner over Falls Church. This is a good solid Edison team. You got to think the second best team in that district.
And really, you got to give them so much credit after. They lost one of the top 5 maybe players in the region last year, and were able to come back this season and put together a strong season with really what was Smith's supporting cast from last year. And that's a bit closer than I thought it was going to be, but again, Edison advances to regionals, and you see the other score there. W&L is a team with a load of talent, and really not a surprise they beat Stort there. They had kind of handled them pretty handily during the regular season, and then now they advance to regionals as well.
The other quarterfinal game, Yorktown, a 61-57 winner over Mount Vernon. It's a Mount Vernon team that, 4 or 5 years ago, this is a team that was one of the top teams in the National District year in and year out. Now coming on some tough times down there on Route 1.
And there were very few upsets on the first day of competition in the district postseason. This is one of them. Yorktown getting a win at Mount Vernon, and Yorktown, like I said, is a very hot and cold team. When they're on, they're very on. When they're off, I saw them against W&L, and they couldn't throw the ball in the ocean. That's a case where when Rich Avila's team plays together, and you saw it in the box score. You saw Brian Veith with 14, a lot of different guys contributing, and when the team contributes, they're not a team of superstars. When the team contributes, they're a very dangerous team. And don't forget, that's a team that pushed Hayfield to the brink last year in regionals.
Absolutely.
So they could be a very dangerous postseason team.
Patriot District quarterfinal action, Lake Braddock, a 69-43 victory over Robinson. Robinson finishes 1-21 in Thad Cobb's third season. Greg and I had a little dispute in the office about Thad. This is the district coach of the year for the 2003-04 season, and they win one game the following year. So
now we would never call for a coaching change. It's not our place to do so. We do not live in the community. I will simply say that based on the first season and the third season of the coaching regime at Robinson, it would be time to evaluate things.
There you go.
There we go.
Now, if they can get some players out there, maybe they'll win some games next year. T.C. Williams, a 53-50 winner in overtime over West Potomac. A bit of a surprise that it was that close, but, this is a T.C. Williams team, a young team, and they've struggled despite, I think, the fact they've won 16 games now this season.
Right.
West Springfield in a nail-biter, 55-54 win over Annandale. I know you had the opportunity today to talk to Dick Wickline, a game that really went down to the wire.
Just an awesome game. Springfield was down at the half. They outscored Annandale 17-14 in the third quarter, and then Parker Roach hits the game-winning shot with 5.1 seconds left off a screen. Annandale has a chance to come down and tie the game. Shot goes off the rim, and the Spartans advance. And that's a team, again, it's sort of the same situation as Edison. They lost Mizuchi off of last year's team. He was the offense. And for them to come back, have a pretty solid season, give a couple teams like Hayfield a scare during the regular season, and make regionals, it's a tribute to Dick Wickline and the players that are still there from last year's team.
And tonight we kind of touched on them a little bit over in the Concord District. Herndon, a 71-64 winner in overtime over Chantilly. This gets Herndon into the championship game against Westfield on Friday night at Westfield. So the Bulldogs will have the home court advantage over there. And then in the other game, Westfield, a convincing win over Oakton, 59-45. And Jeff, this is a rivalry game. Westfield had swept 2 games during the regular season from Oakton by a total of 7 points. So a bit surprising that they were able to pull away in this game.
Yeah, I think the Westfield Herndon Finals is a game that people probably expected last year. Oakton was able to upset to make the finals last year. But I mean, this has the potential to be a good game. It has the potential to be a blowout. I mean, Chantilly, lost to 23, a week ago to Herndon, and now they play an overtime game against them. Gary Hall usually can put a good game plan together against a team, that he's seen, 3 or 4 times. So, I expect with Scotty Reynolds out, Westfield should take this game, but you never know. I mean, Chantilly beat Westfield 2 weeks ago, so you just never know.
And again, not to look too far ahead, but should Westfield win that game, they would draw National District 4, which should be a winnable game. Mm-hmm. And then in the next round, your quarterfinals, you would have either South Lakes or the winner of the Patriot District Final, which is either Lake Braddock or Hayfield. Or I'm sorry, the second place team from the Patriot District, which will be either Lake Braddock or Hayfield. So that could be a very, very interesting second round game for Westfield.
And you're looking at a first round game, possibly Lake Braddock or Hayfield against South Lakes. That's a very intriguing first round Northern Region basketball game we could possibly be looking at. And there we go again, getting ahead of ourselves.
Sure.
Well,
Well, we want to thank Jim Bohr and Francis Dahl, our correspondents over at Westfield, for calling us, giving us those scores and the lowdown over there at the Concord semifinals. Moving on to the Liberty District semifinals, we have some highlights. Fairfax and Woodson, a convincing winner over Fairfax. And as we go through the highlights, this is a Woodson team now, 23-0.
23-0, and they beat Fairfax last Friday to complete their first perfect regular season in school history. And looking at these highlights, you get a good sense of what this team does. If you haven't seen them, the kid who just scored right there, Nick Olivero, is the best offensive player. He's the team MVP. He was the district player of the year. And he's able to do it going inside and going outside. But this team has a lot of offensive weapons that can do the job. And what they're able to do in a lot of these games, and they don't do it every time they go out, but they do have the ability to do it, is just run teams out of the building in the first half. And they do it by shooting outside like that with Tim Colris and Olivero, and also doing it defensively and really getting some key turnovers and really shutting down the other team's big scores in the first half. But you see, you're looking right here. They're able to run the floor. They're able to rebound. Offensive rebounding is really an interesting thing for this Woodson team. It was a real problem for them in their first 2 matchups against Fairfax. And if you know Fairfax, they've got a killer duo inside that can just keep the boards clean. But Woodson, in their second meeting with Fairfax last Friday, really dominated the game on the offensive boards. And if they're going to be able to do that against a team like Fairfax, they're going to be able to do it against most of the teams in the region.
It's going to be interesting to see how they match up with Madison, because Madison has a very good post presence as well with Brandon Altman, with Warren Edney, with Drew Gully. They have a good presence on the inside as well. So setting up to be a fantastic championship game in the Liberty District on Friday night. As you see, Mike Pflugrath, the Liberty District's Coach of the Year this year.
And really, you can't say enough about the turnaround that's happened with this program. This is a team that missed regionals last year.
8-15.
And then turned around and went undefeated. And it wasn't an easy trip. I mean, they played some quality teams and came away with some very, very impressive victories and did it in a manner where you thought sometimes it seemed like you were watching UNLV out there by the scores you were seeing. But it's a very impressive team, and most impressive of all is they're very, very, if I had to compare it to a team, it'd be sort of like Mark Martino's teams like Braddock. They play within a system, they know their limitations, but they are very, very effective, and they don't just sit on the ball, they attack, and it's impressive.
I mean, that being said, I still think that they don't get the respect in the region that maybe they should. They have played a tough schedule. Not the schedule that Herndon has played, not the schedule that maybe Westfield has played. Unless they come on with they're obviously in line to win a championship in the district, I really think they're going to have to reach the finals. A team like Wakefield too. These teams are going to have to really go deep in the tournament to maybe get the respect that they're not getting right now.
And that's exactly right. And you talked to Tony Bentley, the Wakefield coach, and that's the first thing he has said all season. Even when the team has beaten all comers and gone undefeated. He has said that it doesn't really mean anything unless they make their mark in regionals. That has been the goal all season for that program, and rightfully so, because you can go undefeated in the National District for 10 straight years, but if you don't do it in the regionals,
Nobody
then
cares.
no one cares. Exactly. Then you're just a National District team. You're the master of that domain, but you can't go out of there and make it happen when it counts.
On the other, National District semifinals will be tomorrow night, Thursday. Edison's at Yorktown. I'm sorry, these games are at Mount Vernon, the semifinals. Edison versus Yorktown, Washington Lee against Wakefield. And then over in the Patriot District, games held at Lake Braddock on Thursday night. Lake Braddock takes on T.C. Williams, an intriguing matchup. And Hayfield, West Springfield, Dick Wigline's boys going to go for the upset against the Mighty Hawks, who I believe are on an 11-game winning streak right
And
now.
I also believe, I think Springfield only lost by 4 to Hayfield in their last meeting, so it's a pretty that could be a pretty tight game.
Okay, we're running out of time here. We need to kind of run through the girls' scores here. And then the district quarterfinal action on Tuesday night, Chantilly was a 63-56 winner over Centerville. Jefferson a 59-48 winner over Herndon. This is the Herndon team, I believe, finished the season with 4 victories after winning 3 early on. So Dwight Trimmer's team struggled at the late part of the season. Langley got a scare, but came out on top, 38-36 over Lee. Madison a 46-19 win over McLean, who scored 7 points in the first half of that game.
Wow.
And this Tim O'Neill's team really struggled this year to score points. And he kind of jumped into this program as working as an assistant under Kirsten Roberts, and was kind of handed the reins here. But this is a Madison team that is defending district champions, and regardless of whether or not they have Lee Campen or Mary Beth Brown anymore, they still do have Christy Cushney, Monica Chan, who are some good guards in that district. So let's see. I guess if they can make any noise throughout the rest of the district tournament. In the other action, in district semifinals, Marshall 71-42 victory over Fairfax, and Woodson 66-39 win over South Lakes.
Marshall game wasn't even that close. They really did a great job breaking down Fairfax's zone, and they're a very dangerous team with Amanda Brown and the other, who's the big center there?
Anna Stegg.
There you go.
And then Woodson with the win without Ashley McCullough, still out with the ankle injury. Over in the National District quarterfinals, Mount Vernon 51-27 win over Stewart, and Wakefield advances with a 49-39 win over W&L.
Minor surprise, that second game, to be honest with you.
And Yorktown's a 58-32 winner over Falls Church in the quarterfinals. Real quick, guys, we'll run through the scores from tonight's games. Hayfield, they were still on quarterfinal scores. Hayfield 58-52 over West Pot. Lake Braddock 64-33 win over T.C. Williams.
No big surprise there.
No, not at all. And then Robinson also beating Annandale.
Yeah.
Robinson over Annandale. And then want to thank Fred Priester, who was over scouting at the Patriots semifinals tonight. Called in with some scores. Gave us the 54-46 West Springfield win over Robinson. Game where Emily Gardner hurt her knee in the third quarter. Did not return.
That's a shame.
And Hayfield a 38-35 squeaker over Lake Braddock. And this is a
Interesting win. And they I think, on paper, match up well with Springfield in that final.
Absolutely, boys. Well, before we get out of here, we want to be sure to thank our sponsors. And before we do that, we're going to, I'm being told that we're not going to do that. But we want to mention the Cox 35 Game of the Week this week will be over at the Liberty District Championships. Girls and then the boys. The boys matchup we are aware is going to be Woodson Madison. The girls will find out tomorrow night at the district semifinals. Those games are played Saturdays at 6 p.m. Repeat every day at 5 in the morning for the early birds and 6 p.m. when you get home from work. And be sure to check us out next week. We will probably not be live, but check us out anyways.
Hope not.
We're talking more basketball. We'll be in the middle of the region tournament, Wednesdays at 10, Thursdays at 8, and Fridays at 12:30. Check us out on the web, FSN on the web, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. And
there you go.
There you go. There's the first, I believe, the first ever live taping.
It was very exciting. Northern Region Wrestling this weekend. Watch out for West Springfield in that one.
And
it should be
Virginia
a lot of
State
fun.
Gymnastics this weekend down in Fredericksburg.
All right.
Be sure to check out some basketball the rest of the week, guys. We got some good matchups.
Absolutely.
Good hoops action.
Exactly.
There's no hockey.
No, there's no hockey to speak of. Well, except for the high school hockey. We don't even really speak of them either.
No.
Broke a sweat from that run.
Well, that was fun. It was
good, man.
fantastic. You did a heck of a job, and I have to say, lightning speed. Wow, it's fun. Everything's fun.